I'm out here in Georgia, and there's some anticipation with some of the things I've been doing out here this week for months, actually. But one of the things I did not anticipate was meeting with you, Ed, and I just want to welcome you to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
I appreciate you asking me to do this. I don't do a lot of this, but I'll give you what I got.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Mr. Ed Nolan, you've had quite a career, and I think the thing that struck me most, when I got to know you, was how much that the regard that the people around here have for you, and with regard to your journey and what you've done over your in your career and what you're doing now, continuing to serve the people, which is what I kind of see you as being around here. And so if I had to kind of put it out there, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I see you as being like the godfather, around this place, and the air boss, and the maitre d' and all those things, man. I mean, you fulfill so many roles here at the arena training facility. Maybe I'll let you start, wherever you want, but I'd just love to hear about kind of what you're doing now. Who are you, dude? Like, what are you doing here?
So my career, I started out, I joined the military in 1988, and I spent most of my career in the Ranger Regiment, almost 20 years. And I spent a couple years as a drill sergeant. I spent some time at 18th Airborne Corps Lurs. And then I spent a little over a year at JSOC. And then went back to the Ranger Regiment and continued my career there. So most of my career was in the 75th Ranger Regiment. When I retired, when everybody gets ready to retire, they're like, okay, what are we going to do next? What's next, And there was a guy that called me out of the blue. I hadn't even retired yet. I was getting ready to retire. And he was a former 2nd Ranger Battalion guy. And he goes, hey, I've got this place down in Blakely, Georgia, and I'm interested in you coming down and doing business development for us and that kind of stuff. We understand your background. You know a lot of people. You got a lot of contacts or whatever. So I came down and they hired me, and it worked out for about a year. And the guy was not so good
at running a business.
And so it went south quick. And so I went back to contracting, and I was working for Lockheed Martin back at 3rd Ranger Battalion. I was about 3 offices down from where I retired as a command sergeant major there.
Mix, yeah.
And I was right back in the mix, but I was, I enjoyed it. I was setting up, future training, and, if they had something coming up, that's what I was doing. I was setting up the training for them, and this place came up. It was about 2 years, and it came up on the auction block, and the guys that own it now bought it. And I was interested in coming back down here, even though I had a great job, but I love this place. I could see the potential in this place, and I was just like, God dang, I can make this work, And they initially didn't even want to talk to me, because of all the issues.
This stuff that was here before. Yeah, like if I'm a business owner and I bought a business and it was not doing well, like I'm not calling the guy that was running the business before.
And finally I guess I bugged the shit out of him, and finally, I came down and I talked to him, and I rode my Harley down here one day. I actually got stuck in the parking lot in my Harley because it was raining so hard out here.
I experienced that today.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah, and we had to push my Harley out, and I was like, well, that didn't go so well. But anyway, it worked out, and I've been here for about, I don't know, almost 6 years, I guess, 5.5, 6 years. And we're doing pretty good.
What's happening here? I mean, so I'm down here with the Prey Corps Counting Coup group. We've been working the distance carving stuff for the last few days. I've seen some other people coming in and out, like a government agency was here for a few days, kind of staging out of here, doing some stuff. And I've had a few conversations with you, but the things that are the capability of what you can get done at this facility is vast. I mean, I feel like we've barely scratched the surface on what's here. And I think I was telling you this the other night, like this trip, like while it didn't come together very fast, I've had a lot of things going. So I was like researching, like, where am I going to stay? What's this going to look like? Where is this place exactly? Travel in, travel out. And by the way, what the hell are they even doing down there? Because I've been to a lot of ranges, But man, I ain't ever been to a place like this. And quite frankly, I don't think I'll ever be at a place like this ever again.
So honestly, there's nothing you can't do here. There's nothing you can't do here. I mean, we run law enforcement. We run military groups through here. We do breaching. We've got a breaching facility. We have no news, so you can blow up. There's no, we have the Ranger Regiment's master breacher contract.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing we blow up is 250-pound crater in charge. I mean, it's like we're out of the sound ordinance because we're in the county. So when I say there's nothing you can't do here, there's literally nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
So, but we get everything through here. We get, law enforcement, military. We do civilian matches. We do corporate team building events. We do weapons testing, ammo testing, that kind of stuff. So literally, if you call me and say, this is what I want to do, okay. It's not like it's anything out of the ordinary. We do.
This is how many people you bring in when you want to be here.
Whether it's airsoft, I had 400 people from airsoft here, a month ago. And it's just like, okay, I don't know what they do, but cool. They can't break nothing. So, but we got 2,300 acres. So there's a lot of stuff that, you can do here. And, our shoot house is relatively new. It's about 7,000 square feet. It's a huge shoot house. So there's a lot of stuff that we bring that, the thing that makes us who we are is like for military groups and for corporate, right? So when you come here, I can lock the gate, right? I can feed you. I can house you. You ain't got to leave except to go to the beer store or liquor store. That's about it. And that's it, and we purposely, we have 30 cabins. We purposely don't put TVs in them. There's no Wi-Fi in them because what that forces for people to come together in one area, right? And they get to bond, drink beer, hang out, throw cornhole, whatever they want to do. And it's team building. No matter who you are or what, whether it's civilian, military, and law enforcement, it works out that way to where people love to come here because they get away. They can go fishing, we can go pig hunting, we can go, if they bring their own personal weapons and we're done training, they can go shoot, whatever. So it works out that way, and it makes it very popular for guys because, a lot of places you go, you stay in a hotel. So when training's done, you go to your
Everybody
hotel.
separates, right?
And then, you got two guys going here, two guys going here, or whatever. Now, there's no strip joints or anything like down here, but they seem to love to come here for the reason that they can just be together, learn each other. And when they leave here, I think they're trained because there's no distractions.
That's exactly right.
They're not going home every night. They're not going to the hotel. There's no distractions. It's all a team. And I think that works out very well in our favor when it comes to, a lot of the military units and law enforcement and civilians as a whole that come here.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, that's what I've gotten from this week is a little bit of not knowing what to expect, but getting more than you ever would have expected coming down here. And you nailed it. And it's interesting you say that because nobody really said what you just said there this week. We've all been talking about how great it's been and what a great experience we're having. We're getting to hang out with folks and meet new people. But in the training that, we've been going through has been amazing. And the 2,300 acres that you got, like 2,300. Yeah. I mean, we've seen what I feel like is a fraction of that, as the places we're doing, but it's a top-notch facility. But the bigger thing that I get from it is what you just said. And it kind of it brings me back to, and I bet it brings other people back or reminds people of times in their life, for me, like whether that was in Boy Scouts or summer camp or, team building events that I'd done through, my young adult and then my adult life.
Right.
And you recognize the value that you get out of that hanging out with people and also the stories that you share. And outside of the training, how much more life experience you can obtain from the people that you're around.
Right.
It's been an amazing experience for me. And I think the biggest thing for me is like the convenience of, because I've been to a lot of training events, that the lodging here on site it's so I think this was the first thing I said to you, is like, man, that cabin is so peaceful.
Yeah.
I mean, those things got to be I don't know, probably 50 yards apart from one another. You got a shower, you got a bathroom, you got a bed, you got a refrigerator, you got a microwave, you got everything you need to do the basics, to do the things so that you can get up the next day and get back out on the range, right? And do the whatever part of the facility you're using and get your work done,
right?
And know that at the end of the day, you don't have to get in the car for a long drive home or whatever else. I mean, you nailed it with all the stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of the people that come through here. You got military, law enforcement, civilians. While we've been on site here, I've met the king of 2 Mile. Right,
Robert.
Right? Yeah, right. Met Robert today.
Right.
Actually, I had dinner with Robert. Like, this dude's a legend.
Yeah.
Right, and then we were talking with Scotty yesterday from AMU and the things that he's doing, and he's been kind of hanging around and giving pointers and hanging out with the crew and contributing. And I guess my point of that is like like I said, I don't expect that there's ever going to be another experience that I'm going to have where I've run into so much talent at one place. We're so willing and so open to share experiences and knowledge.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of real dudes.
It is. And, the community as a whole, the shoot community and the people who compete, or the people who want to learn to shoot or whatever. I mean, you got to look at them. I mean, we all have the same personality. We're all A-type personalities and all that stuff. Yeah. And sometimes it turns into a pissing contest. I know more than you or whatever, but for the most part, the guys that come through here are genuinely willing to. They either know a lot and they want to help people.
Yep.
And then you got people who come here humbly who want to learn from those people. And we've had everybody through here. From Donald Trump Jr. to governors and congressmen or whatever. Right. But it all works out. It's just that the people who want to shoot, who want to learn to shoot, those kind of people are who I want to hang out with. I could never have asked for a better retirement job out of the military. No way could I ask for a better job, because I get to meet so many interesting people who are like-minded. Now, when Mike starts talking or Fred or somebody else, about, mills, I don't give a shit about any of that. I could care less. I'm not a long-range shooter, but my job's not to know that. My job is to, make this place run.
Right.
And, I know what I learned in the military, and I could teach that. I do very little instructing anymore. I'm just outdated. I retired in 2014, so I'm a little outdated on equipment, techniques, and all that stuff. And I admit that. I don't care. That's fine. I don't have time to go back and learn what I've lost over, the last 10 years.
It's evolved very fast.
And the equipment and everything else, I don't care to learn it because I'm done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Get it. Yeah. It's not where you're at.
The other part is it's not what I get paid to do, but it is interesting to see. Yeah. I watch it. I still teach some things. I teach some CQB and stuff like that, but I would never try to teach a long range, marksmanship course, because they've got equipment now that I went through sniper school in like 91. We were still using, formulas and,
compasses. And
we're measuring, doors and all this stuff to get, the distance and stuff. But we didn't have range finders and all that stuff. But there's no way I would try to teach, what these guys are teaching now. But a lot of respect for them for what they do.
Yeah, I think the level and the density of talent that comes through this place is just kind of walking around with all the last 3 days have been immensely dense with information and knowledge and just conversation and whatever. But the facility is huge. There's a lot of things to see. There's kind of the focal point here, where kind of where we're sitting and where everybody kind of congregates at the end of the day. So you could have multiple units of people or whatever you say, organizations or groups of people out here, but there's one common ground for them to come to. And so as I'm walking through the facility, I'm looking at the grease boards where, there's conference rooms, there's places where people can meet. classroom time, and on the grease boards, there's stuff left over from other instructors or, who's come through here. And it's a virtual who's who of people that have been out there for a very long time doing very, very specific things, whether it's in the civilian community, law enforcement, military community, whatnot. So there's a provenance to some extent with this place. Like the people that have come through here, for me, that's very nostalgic sort of in a way. And I don't put too much in that, but it's also really good to kind of, it's like kind of the homeland, where people come through here. And so just, kind of going back to that, you mentioned, where you were and then kind of where you are now. Can we fill in the gaps a little bit? I would love to know a little bit about the history, because you don't spend, I think you said you went in 88 and you got out in 14. Right. So that is a wee bit of time. And the way I understand it, I mean, you went in and enlisted and came out the highest rank that an enlisted person could get, correct? So there's a lot of stuff in there, man. Can we get through that?
Quickly.
Yeah.
I went through, I came in 88. I got to 1st Ranger Battalion in early 89. So my first year in the military was very quick, and it was very awarding for me, because in 89, I went through for some reason when I got there, I went to Jordan. I got my Jordanian jump wings. I went to Ranger School. I got my Ranger tab. And then we jumped into Panama in December of 89. Yeah, so I got my Combat Jump Star and my CIB. So my first year in the military was just like, holy shit.
It's fast-paced.
It was fast-paced, but it set me up. It helped me, not just because of what I did, those kind of things, but I learned so much, And, I knew at the end of, when we came back from Panama, I knew that there was no way I was getting out of the military. This is what I wanted to do. And, I thought, okay, I want to make it to the highest rank I can in the Ranger Regiment, which, luckily for me at the time, you could stay in the Ranger Regiment as long as you wanted to, as long as you performed. Mm-hmm. So I didn't leave the Ranger Regiment until, I don't know. I think it was like 95.
Wow.
And I was waiting for a platoon. And I made E7 in like 7 years. So that was pretty good.
That's pretty fast. Yeah.
I was tracking pretty good. And then I went to 18th Airborne Corps Lurs for a couple of years. And then I got picked up to be a drill sergeant.
Okay.
So I went to CAG selection, Delta Force selection, and didn't make it. Broke my ankle. Came back, and then I got picked up to be a drill sergeant. And I'm like, oh, hell no, I ain't doing this. And so I tried to go back to CAG selection too soon. And of course, I didn't make it.
Like your body wasn't ready?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm a guy that thinks everything happens for a reason. So I stuck it out and went back, was a drill sergeant for a while, and then went back to the Ranger Regiment after that. And I stayed there the rest of my time and ended up being the command sergeant major of 3rd Ranger Battalion. So, like I said, everything happens for a reason.
It worked out.
And I would never trade any of my failures, whether they were for injury or whatever, for what I was able to do. And then I had no intentions of retiring. It was late 2013, because I retired in 14, I had a stroke. And, that kind of shut everything down for me. I couldn't deploy anymore.
Right.
So I was like, okay, we'll see what they give me. Maybe I'll get, the Ranger Training Brigade or whatever, because I can't deploy. Well, I ended up getting ACRC Brigade.
What does that mean?
Fort Knox. It's like training the cadets that are coming through the military at Fort Knox. And I was like, done. Yeah. Tapped out. I was out. So that's why I retired at 25.
Gotcha.
I probably would have stayed in longer if I'd have got the job, but there was no way at that point that I was going to try to do that. But, like I said, everything worked out. I'm sitting here, we're talking to you.
Right.
And loving life, Yeah. I couldn't ask for a better retirement. It's a rewarding job sometimes as well, because you see even civilian groups leave here and they're better. as a company or whatever. I get a lot of gun companies or Barrett or Ruger or Savage or whoever comes through here, and they leave here better. They understand their job better. They understand their weapons better. And then the military, obviously, even though I don't train them, they like to pick my brain at night over a bottle of whiskey.
Oh, I'm sure.
And, I feel like everybody that leaves here, I would say 8 out of 10 people that leave here come back very, very soon. And that's rewarding. If you can provide something to somebody to get them to come back, not for the money, to get better, then it's rewarding.
I think that's the underlying thing that I get from you, kind of from the get-go. You mentioned like giving back and, people getting better every night, every day, like you're checking in.
Yeah.
So like when we're out on the range, hey, you guys good? What do you need? Like, you guys okay? But then at the end of the night, you're hanging out with the people, asking questions, having conversations, taking it in. And in a way, sort of staying relevant with the business in and of itself. Like, you got your finger on it's more than a finger on the pulse. That's not even close to the reality. I think of what you have here. It's a whole other connection, right, to it. And that's what makes the thing tick. And so my own personal story with kind of how I got here is when I met Mike. They were doing something back in February. He's like, he invited me out. And there was something on the calendar, and it just didn't work out. Right. So this is how things work out for a reason. There was just no way I was going to make it. So we rescheduled, and it was going to okay, I think there's this thing in March, or maybe it was April. It's like end of March, early April. I was like, okay, let's put that thing on the calendar. Let's make this happen. Got the open weekend. And then he calls me and he goes, hey, we just lined this thing up at this place called the Arena. Because if you're going to come, this is the place that you want to come to.
Right.
And he started going down all the reasons why. And the very, very first reason that he brought up was you. Wasn't the facility, it was you. He goes, I got to tell you, like, part of the reason I love this place the most, Scott, is because of this guy, Ed. This is a guy you definitely need and want to talk to when you get here. And so I'm like, that's interesting that he's putting that out there, because there were these other opportunities, and it wasn't, while the facility is obviously a highlight of what we're here, of my experience. The people that I've been connected with while I've been here has certainly been, again, going back to everything happens for a reason. Like, it's been a bit overwhelming. And part of it is just the impartment of knowledge, but also the acceptance of who we are, where we're coming from. And there's so when you talk about this, there's military, there's civilians, there's law enforcement. There's very clear dividing lines on what those things are.
They are.
But what I get when people come here is that those lines get erased.
They do.
You are doing this very specific thing, whatever it is to do, breacher school, right? I have no idea what that looks like, or what that's like when people are here, because they're not doing that right now. But again, we had this other agency out here that was doing some stuff this weekend, and then obviously and then these other people coming in, as there's this overlap. The bottom line is I guess what I'm getting at is that at the end of the day, everybody comes together. And I think for people in this community, right? And when I say community, I mean all the things that we just mentioned in terms of those silos and everybody that on the in-between. That is the thing that people talk about the most, but it's also the thing that's the most misconstrued.
Right.
And and I think it gets misconstrued because people don't come together.
Right.
You just mentioned, very briefly, your entire career. You've had many, many experiences with leaving one place to go to another, to have to bring people together and have people work as a team. If I'm going back, so like 88, 89, you mentioned Panama. I remember that.
Right.
I remember that vividly. I had guys going back to camps, and again, this be reminding me of experiences. I had a camp counselor, 2 of them actually, that had been to Panama. They were Army. That went in. They had to deal with that. One guy had been to Grenada before, and then and came through, and how impactful that was. There were a lot of things that happened after that, between that and 2014, and there's so many people you've had to have come in contact with, and people that have come, people that have gone, and people that aren't here anymore.
Right.
And one of the conversations I was having with Fred earlier, today, was with regard to this particular month is marks May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right.
And I look at it as mental health and suicide prevention month, because I think those things work hand in hand. And we were sort of talking offline for a second about the community in and of itself, and that as a hot topic, because it's interesting. We have to dedicate a month to this and to bring people's awareness to it. I think it's becoming more of a well-known topic,
right?
And people are talking about it. After all the things that you've done and all the places that you've been and all the things you've heard, I wonder what your take is on that now, and your thoughts on that as just on the whole.
If you think about when people came back from Vietnam and the way they were treated, right?
Mm-hmm.
PTSD and TBI and all, it wasn't a thing, right? Nobody gave a shit, right? Nobody cared, As we rotated out of 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, 20 plus years, it became a thing because people were trying to figure it out, When it comes to, the 22 a day suicides and all that stuff, I don't understand it, right? Obviously I've seen a lot of shit. Fred's seen a lot of shit, whatever. We've all witnessed tragic shit, right? And a lot of it is with people that we care about and we love as brothers and all that stuff. And then, as you get out and people separate, you try to stay in contact with them or whatever, but you really don't know what they're going through. Mm. And there's guys that have committed suicide that I'm just in awe. It's just like, there's no way, there's no way. And then, but my thing with that is nobody's ever done a survey or an investigation on what drugs the VA had them on when they committed suicide.
Yep.
It's never been done. I lived this with my own daughter. My oldest daughter, she had high anxiety. She went to a psych and they gave her some pills and it even made her worse.
Yep,
to where she was where we had to talk her off the ladder, took her off the medicine, got her to another doctor, got her on the right medicine. She's doing great things now. She has no anxiety, nothing, right? But when you take a guy that has a wife, two young kids, who just drives up one day and blows his brains out in the driveway, you can't explain that other than it's not because of PTSD. It's because of what the VA put him on. That's the only thing that I can relate it to is somewhere somebody put them on something that made them lose their mind.
And sent them away.
And said,
this is going to make you better.
Yeah. And I don't know any other way to explain it. Because guys that I never thought would do that have done it. And it's just like, maybe it's my fault, but you can't keep up with everybody.
No.
When you're in charge of, at some points, I'm in charge of a battalion or whatever, but you can't go back and say, okay, what I miss.
No, that's survivor's guilt is what they call that, man. And
right.
I've heard about it and I've talked to other people about it, and that is one of the very first things that sets in. And that is a rough place to live. Right?
It is.
But you're making a really good point. I think this is a very overlooked piece of this. And it by the way, I think this transitions over to beyond just the military, right? It goes into law enforcement, first responders absolutely. And whatnot. There's a stigma attached to even talking about it. But you just brought up a very hot topic, which I think is, like that it's better to keep them medicated,
yep,
and kind of just quiet and out of the way
right.
than to address the problem for what it is.
Yep.
And at this point, it's become an industry. There's money to be made from it. That just makes me sick.
It does. It's horrible.
Sick to my stomach.
Because most of these guys drink, right? So you go in, they say, okay, yeah, you got PTSD. Right, take these.
Right.
See ya.
Yep.
That's it, And they go take these pills and they
check
start
back with me in 6 months.
Yeah, and they start drinking. Well, they don't come back in 6 months because they're one of the 22.
Right.
And that's I think that's kind of where we're at, you know, and it's sad. It really is, you know, because some of these guys are, you know, they're true American heroes. And, you know, I personally know guys that were just fucking studs, you know, just animals that survived amputations, that have survived, you know, so much stuff. And then they're gone, you know, and it's sad. It's hard to watch, but there's no answer for it because you can't live in somebody else's mind, right?
No.
And you know, everybody battles their own demons. I battle mine, you know.
Me too.
But I manage it, but I won't go to a fucking doctor. I can tell you that. You know, I don't. I'm afraid of what he's going to give me.
What's available to you?
I'm
what
are
the consequences?
I'm not going. I'm not going.
That's such a tough man. That is a very tough place to live in, and I think there's there's such a dichotomy with people out there that they will go to the doctor. They expect like, well, if I'm not feeling good, I got to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
They're going to make me better. And then there's this whole other thing of I don't want to go to that guy because they could make me worse, and I could wind up like this. I could be number 22.
Yep.
I could be number 1.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't get it. It scares me because I know one day, as I get older, I'm going to need to go to a doctor, and I'm going to need something, you know. And I'm just like, shit, you know. They're going to relate everything back to the military. They're going, you know. I don't want to go down that road. I really don't, and it scares the hell out of me because I know if it could happen to Joe Kapicheski or some of the other guys that I know, it fucking happened to me too.
Right.
You know, and you know, it's just a road I don't want to go down.
Yeah, man.
And I'll fight that road as long as I can.
I could tell that about you.
Yeah.
I could tell that about you, but I'm sure you would have said that about the other guys, that you mentioned, too, that you didn't think that would be. But I wonder how much of this, like here at the arena and the connections you make with people, how much of that helps.
It's therapy.
Yeah.
It is. It's therapy. You know, I mean, I deal with it my own way. But, you know, I enjoy doing what we're doing. I enjoy talking to people but I'm a very honest person. So if you ask me my opinion, you're going to get it. And, you know, I get a lot of questions about, leadership and those kind of things. They get my opinion, you know, and where the Army is now and the military is now, it's like, I'm not sure if my opinion's appreciated anymore, but I'm going to give it anyway, you know.
I think the reason they're asking you that is because they recognize what you just said there. Like whether it's the military or nowhere else, is that, people understand that other people are maybe trying to protect their feelings and telling them the things that they think they want to hear, or, to help them somehow rather than not understanding that being honest.
Yeah, it's blunt force trauma with me. If you ask me, it's you're going to get it, and I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, they'll even ask me, how do you think training went this week? And I'm like, I thought it went pretty good, but you could have done this better.
Yeah.
Or you could have capitalized on this while you were here or whatever. But they don't take it in the wrong way. I'm just being honest with you. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you. If you don't ask me, I'm just going to go to my office and, do my thing. But it's rewarding. It really is. I do teach a little bit here and there. I love to do like corporate team building events because, I could put up some pretty cool things to make them. You got civilians that are trying to do, build as a team or whatever.
Yeah.
We got some cool things out there.
Like what? Like what? What do you do?
We have an actual lane. It's like, in the military, they have these, a village, and you go through and you have a task you got to accomplish as a team.
Okay.
And I'm about halfway through building it, and I've done one already, just with 4 obstacles. But you got an obstacle you come up to, you put somebody in charge, and he goes, all right, this is, you got to complete this task with,
There's a problem, you got to come up with a solution. Yeah,
those kind of things, I love it. That is so much fun to me. If I could do that every day of the week, that's what I would do.
That's amazing,
because people, it takes them a while to figure it out, and it could be something as simple as I've got 2 4x4s with ropes, and they all 4 people or 5 people's got to get on those boards with ropes
and move. Right.
And I put a maze up, so they got to turn and move. I mean, it's just simple shit.
So they have to talk to one
another. But they have to communicate. They have to figure out how to get through the thing. It's simple stuff, right? I love doing stuff like that. I love it.
How much of that comes from like being a drill instructor?
All of it.
That's great. Do you yell at them like that?
No.
Yeah. Why?
I stay away. I just task condition standard. This is what you got to do. This is how you got to do it. And this is,
Simple.
And that's it. I sit back.
Simple.
And then when they're done, I say, okay, this is what you could have done better. This is, you did good here, whatever. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to imagine, for people kind of in the quote unquote real world, right? Whatever that means. I don't know what the fuck that means.
I don't know.
But they're out there in the corporate world, right? I worked a job like that for a long time. I had a lot of flexibility, a lot of autonomy. I don't regret it at all. It was a lot of fun, but at the same time, like, you're dealing with first world problems,
right?
And there's always somebody that you can, I don't know, I don't want to say blame, but you can, like, this job needs to get done. That ain't my job. I can go to somebody else. But when you're forced in these situations, that person that you've been delegating to, and those people that have been delegating to you, now you're all on the same team. And you have to work together. Yep. Man, we've gotten so far disconnected from that,
Well, most people work from home anymore.
That's what I mean.
So there's no interaction. It's just like, how do you build a team if everybody's separated? And that's going back to what we talked about when we first started this, is this bringing that team together. They're here, they're fishing, they're hunting, they're shooting, they're drinking beer, they're building bonfires, whatever they need to do, but they're together, right? And it just bonds. And when you get a team that's together, you got a successful team.
That's the team. Yeah. It's that's a metaphor, right? For our society and our culture, and here within the gun community, whatever else. And we have been separated for a long time. I think a lot of this, we were talking about this the other night, just kind of like from a business perspective, like the whole COVID thing, and what happens and how it slows things down and it changes how you approach things. And from a business perspective, for a lot of us, I'm in the gym business. You were in the government contracting business, right. And so forth. So that puts an impact on business, and you have to pivot, as they say,
right,
and try to make things happen. I wonder, with that pivoting, and you're trying to continue to push this business forward in the way that you're doing it. What has changed, say, in the last couple of years, in terms of the types of things that are coming through here, if anything, or are you seeing more of some things than others? What's being successful? No, I don't mean necessarily for the arena and what you're doing as a business operator here, but what are you seeing being successful with these other organizations as they're trying to kind of regroup and figure out how to navigate through this new landscape? Is there anything specific?
Maybe a quarter of the country went back to business as usual, and 75% of it says, "Fuck this, I'm staying at home."
Right.
And I'm going to work. And I think that's a lot of our problem now, is even the schools, the way, because I think the biggest tragedy in COVID was the kids not being able to go to school.
I witnessed that right in front of me every day, man.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest tragedy, is keeping the kids out of school. And then when they go back to school, the country's become so woke that they're teaching them shit that they never taught before.
It's amazing how fast things change.
And it's like, holy shit, what happened? It's just like, one day we're going to school, everybody's learning math,
math, science, reading,
and then now it's like, okay, Johnny, are you a male today or are you a female?
Yeah, it is hard.
It is brutal. It's brutal. And from our perspective here, whenever COVID hit, we never closed. I'd stand in the park a lot, and we'd open all the ranges, and people could I just wanted people to get out of the house. We didn't charge them anything. You want to come shoot your pistol, come shoot your pistol. You want to go shoot long range, go shoot long range. And we did that for a few months. It's just like, because I knew what people were going through. It's just like, you can't sit there.
Right.
And we offered them, I did it for nothing more than for people to get out of their house and go shoot, especially law enforcement and stuff like that. Come shoot, just break away. But I don't know. It's hard to figure out anything these days.
Isn't it? Like,
it's crazy.
That's the same. It's the same.
It's crazy.
For me. Like, the way I look at it is people are getting out there and trying to kind of configure their lives or, figure out how to approach things differently. Like what I see still, and this is what I noticed, during that time, like you're talking about, you're opening it up. It's like, you can't sit there.
Yeah.
So just come out and do something. Whatever you want to do, you can do it here.
Get out of the house.
Yeah, kind of thing. Like I looked at things as people are just languishing, right? They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They've lost motivation. Talking about the working from home thing. I mean, what's the most adversity you face on a daily basis is your fucking internet connection or something, right? My Zoom call conked out or, whatever. Or the dogs barking in the background while you're trying to have a business meeting. For a long time, I was like, oh, this will be over soon. People have to come out the other side. But I still feel like people are languishing a lot.
They are. I mean, try to find somebody to mow grass now or just work. So if you try to find a young kid in high school, just looking for a job.
Right.
He may last a day.
I had a
it's horrible. It's like nobody can work.
It's very frustrating. I had one of my employees today, and by the way, I'll say her name, Kayla, who's been on the show before. She's amazing. She's like our right hand, our admin assistant out there, but she's more than that. That's the title, but she's like our right hand. Love you, Kayla. But she had said something like, I was just sitting in, I think she was getting her nails done or something. Maybe it was her hair done, and there was a couple of girls, like younger girls, and she's not old. She's like 25 years old.
Right. But
these were younger girls than her, and one of the girls I think had said like, I just need to get a job where I can sit there and do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And apparently the other girl had said, well, like, I don't know, had made some statement about, well, let me know when you find out what that job is, because I want that job too. Like, that right there just sums
that
it
is
all up.
That's where we're at. Yeah. It's sad. It's so sad.
It's very tough. I mean, you were mentioning the kids and being home from school and whatnot. I don't want to make this all about COVID. I just think, what I'm looking at is like, we're only a couple of years out. And it seems like it was just yesterday, but it was like 3 years ago, right? And for some people, for some of us, like I live behind the Iron Curtain in California. We just lifted like mask mandates, like in hospitals, like literally like 2 months ago. It might not even been that long ago. It's still ridiculous out there, but I got an 11-year-old at the time. She was 8, and she's going through this stuff, and it was literally happening right in front of me. And I watched her struggle while I was struggling.
Right.
She heard and saw her, her mom and I struggling, and then she struggled, and then she continues to struggle, for a little bit. And now she's in a great situation. Things are getting better. But the point of this is like if it's not for the, our approach, and her dad's approach, because she's my stepdaughter, was like, look, we got to get her into a better situation.
Right.
This cannot continue. Like this can't stop. So I think like when I see the people coming into this place, without dwelling on that other stuff, they're like, no, I'm here to be better, which I think provides a different experience for people when they come through here. I think some people, always there's going to be people that signed up not knowing what they signed up for, whatever it is they come through here. But I can imagine with the people that you're seeing coming through, like, I mean, you mentioned like Ranger Regiment, the breaching, program that you guys have here. We can talk about that maybe a little bit. That people might not understand like the extent to what that is, but when they come, they're focused, and they got to be here for 10 or 12 days or whatever else, and they're doing a very, very specific thing before they move on to the next thing. They've been given direction. Right. You have a mission. This is what you're supposed to do, and then you move forward in it. Just talking about that. So, just talking about mission. If there's a guy that knows about that, right, and can sum that up for people that don't have the experience that you have, like me. I mean, I don't have the experience that you've had. Like if I asked you, like, talk to me about what the meaning of having a mission is for you. Can you put that together?
So, I mean, it's no different. I mean, it's just like whatever you do in your daily life, you've got a goal you want to get to.
Yep.
So whatever that mission is to get to that goal, right? So no matter who you are or what you're doing, if my goal is to make this place the best training facility in the world, then that's my mission, right? You have to set goals for yourself, and a mission and a goal are basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody gives you a mission, in the military or whatever, you get a mission, you got to go accomplish it or whatever. It's no different than, if your mission is to make this amount of money in this amount of months, It's the same thing. It's no different. Military's got a mission to kill people and do their job and do those things, and that's their mission, right? For me, I have a mission here as running this place to make as much money as we possibly can, and make an experience for everybody that comes here to be successful. So it just depends on who you are and what you're doing and what you want to do.
Yeah, I think I just see people again going back to the languishing piece. Like they're missing that in their life. They don't know what they're going after.
But you got to figure it out. And if you have to wait for somebody to tell you what your mission is, you're probably losing out. If you can't sit back and say, okay, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And that's with my daughters. What do you want to do?
It's parenting.
Yeah, it's parenting 101. And you see very little of that.
This is what I was getting at. Yeah,
you see very little of that anymore. What do you want to do? My oldest daughter just moved to New York. She moved to Manhattan. Her whole life, that's all she wanted to do. And I can remember, as she's growing up, putting wallpaper up in her room with the of New York skyline. I mean, I'm going to live in New York. I'm going to live in New York. And that
was her mission.
That was her mission. Guess where she moved 2 months ago? Manhattan. And she had a mission and she did it, and whether she'll stay there and make it, I don't know, but that's up to her. That's up to her.
That's up to her. Yeah.
But, you got to have something to strive for, and if people don't have that, it's, you kind of just treading water.
Yeah.
You're just treading water.
Yeah. It's rough to watch. Like I see again, I think that's what's different about this place, because I haven't met anybody here that's in this like no man's land. Right. So I think when you come here, you get this, people are driven here. And so when you leave here, you have that, you can take that with you, along with the stuff that you've learned from whatever instructor you've been working with, whatever program you've been in, that this provides that, where there's so many places in the world now, or in your community, in people's houses, or their schools or their work or their job, where they're not provided that kind of fulfillment, where you can walk away and there's something to hang on. So, and that's what I get. Like, and again, like this, one of the reasons I was so eager to meet you when we rolled up, like as soon as Mike said, look, I want you to meet this guy, I was like, okay. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, when somebody has a mission, you can smell it on them. Like it's palpable.
Yeah. So, when people come here, they either come here to train, learn, or compete. Right? So those are really the biggest three things that people come here for.
Okay.
And then while they're here learning, training, or competing, they have a good fucking time.
Yeah.
And it makes it even better, But, you get guys that come here and they want to learn. They're so nervous that they don't want to ask questions and all that stuff. You got to figure out a way to break that ice, And, the first day for a lot of people is rough. And then you figure out somehow to break the ice to where they open up, because they're not asking questions and they don't know the answer, and they paid money to come here to learn that, but they just don't.
They don't know where to start.
They don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the COVID thing one thing.
Yeah, man.
So the biggest issue with COVID for me is what it's done to the military.
Let's talk about it.
So if you look at how many dudes or females or whatever got kicked out.
Well, man, let's go here.
So
let's go there.
If you look at how many got kicked out, as opposed to where the enlistment rate is right now, we got nobody.
Yeah.
We lost so many. I know so many guys that were just fucking animals that wouldn't get to poke.
The guys you want. The guys you want there.
And now it's not even a thing. Mm-hmm. It's not even a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. But we lost all this talent, all this experience, all this combat experience. 20 years of combat experience, guys, that's gone. And then you get a guy who's on the fence, right? Because he's been in, say 15, 16 years. Okay, so if I don't get it, I've only got 4 or 5 years. I got one enlistment left, and I can retire and get a retirement. And, it just...
They're making decisions based on that about getting it or not getting it.
It has fucked our military up.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because I think this is a road that I've been wanting to explore a little bit more from a factual perspective, not just from like a theoretical perspective. So there are numbers out there that you can, that people can pull up, and, whether that number is completely honest, from the people that are reporting it or not, like, there's conjecture there. I don't even want to get into that. But I think the point you're making is more people left than are coming in.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
That's a huge problem.
That's a problem. We've given whatever it is, 46 billion, or whatever the number's tallied at right now, to another country in a proxy war, right? Where we're providing them equipment and our basically our assets in order to do the things that whatever the fuck they're doing over there. I don't know what it is. I don't think anybody is completely clear. But I think what we know is, and I've had people on the show that will tell you, because they've been there a lot, that I go, the people that are actually fighting this war are not getting that stuff.
Right.
There are other people that are not.
Yep.
So now we've given equipment away. And just like we don't have enough backfill with the people coming in, we don't have the equipment that we had. Well, now granted, a lot of this equipment we sent over was dated, right, to some extent. But I wonder what your take is on this, and kind of because you have some insight. I'm sure you have some inside knowledge.
Well, what we given them, plus what we left in Afghanistan.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God.
So we're really fucking short.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, but as far as people coming in and people going out. So even if the guys,
if you could replace the numbers,
if the guys that were coming in were equal to what's going out, or even more, even if it was, it's not. But if it was, look at the experience you've lost.
Knowledge, wisdom.
You got a brand new guy coming in.
We're right back. Are we not right back to where we were
right back where
30 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So you lose all this experience, and then you get some dude who spent his whole life fighting, wars on fucking TikTok or whatever they play now, or what's it called, Nintendo or whatever.
Yeah.
But they Call of Duty. Yeah, Call of Duty. That's it. But that's where we're at, and there are still some kids out there who were raised right and dedicated and have values and have, those things that join the military, and thank God for them, but there's not enough.
Right.
There's not enough to replace what we've lost, because of one stupid shot. And I was thinking about it when all that came through. I would have been at my 27-year mark, and I was not getting the poke, and I'm thinking, holy shit, what am I going to do? If I was still in,
what would you have done?
What would I have done? Would I throw away a 27-year career for one shot?
It's a big decision to make,
and it put a lot of people
in a really
that
tough
situation,
position.
and you're just like, what do you do? And now it just went away. It just goes away. And careers and family, all that shit's lost.
There's consequence.
Yeah. It's like, what a waste.
Yeah, there's consequence to this. I wonder how many... Are you seeing people that left? Like, are you seeing them figure it out some other way now? Or are they like if you were in, but going back to 2020, languishing and not quite sure, not having direction? They don't have a mission now.
No, they some of them are figured it out. I don't know. I think they're offering some of them an opportunity to come back in.
Okay.
So I don't know. I would hope most of the guys if you're smart enough not to take that shot, you're smart enough to figure it out.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective, man.
You know what I'm saying? You're smart enough to figure it out. If you say, I'm not getting it, kick me out, you've got a plan. I hope to believe that, but, and he's a young E5, E6, E7 in the military. They've got a lot of stuff ahead of them. And for as much America right now that don't want to work, there's jobs out there for them, and I think they can figure it out.
Yeah. That's actually a great perspective. I hadn't actually considered that. my time, I was not going to, not for under any circumstances, do that. I was not going to require or mandate any employees do that. We had county and state stuff going on. I was like, people, you are not going to lose your jobs. We're not going to even discuss this. You do you. Whatever the fuck you want to do, you do it, but that's not going to impact your employment here. At the same time, we're not going to talk about it.
Right.
So, like if people are coming in and they're expecting or demanding answers like, does this person got the shot? Is this not? No, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah.
Like, well, I deserve to know. You don't deserve shit. Yep. You're not entitled to anything. Like if you want to work here or you want to work out here or whatever else, then do that. That person having a shot or not having a shot doesn't diminish what they're capable of doing or what their abilities are. That doesn't matter to us here. Right. We leave that shit at the door. If you can't do that, then you can't be here. I guess like as we're looking at that, this is an interesting point that you brought up there about if you decided not to, you're probably one of those people that's like, no, I'll figure a way around this somehow. Speaking of figuring a way around things, like I wonder, like you had a long career, man. You saw a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff, probably a lot of bad stuff, good leadership, not so good leadership,
right?
And you've been in that leadership role again at a level that it takes a long time to get to. When you see what's happening now in the world, particularly, so we can kind of go back to what happened in Afghanistan as we exited and what's going on now in Eastern Europe. I wonder what your take is here, on the state of where we are. I mean, you kind of already mentioned the military piece in terms of like recruitment, enrollment,
right?
Kind of where we are, but what's your take on kind of the situation at large from a world, like a geopolitical perspective, and the realism of what could potentially exist for us as a country from a military, like, can we protect ourselves, man? Are we in a position where we should be worried or not worried? What's your take on all of that?
Well, I've been out since 14.
I know.
But, I would never not, it's like not pulling for Georgia, right? I'm a Bulldogs fan, right?
Okay.
So when you ask me about the military, I'm going to say, yep, we're good. We're good. Yeah. However, I do think, there's a lot. Honestly, I don't know. I think there's a lot of problems in the military as a whole, not Army, Air Force. I think as a whole, the wokeness piece and some of the stuff that they're going through. But I kind of look at it like this. So when I came in the Army in 88, 89, you didn't have to be very smart. You were just a ground pounder, digging foxholes, shooting guns. In the military now, it's got to be they got to be smart with the equipment they got. The level of expertise they got to have on missions and stuff like that, and that's the military as a whole. The Air Force is very strong. I think that the Army and the Marine Corps is very strong, and the Navy as well. But it's hard to tell because our biggest adversary right now is obviously China.
Yep.
So what do you have nothing to base it off because they've really never fought a war.
Right. Yep.
So it's kind of hard to say we can kick China's ass whenever we have no idea what their capabilities are.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like, because they haven't done anything in so long. Like, and China's really good at ripping off other people's stuff. Right. We know that. Right. So, but they've never really been tested.
Right. They've never been tested.
They haven't been. Like, in the stuff that they rip off, would be like from a technological perspective, specifically, like I would think that their Air Force or their air power is probably pretty solid, but their Navy probably doesn't even compete.
Not.
Probably not. And then you look at from like an infantry level. Well, they might have a 1,000,000-man army, but what are they really capable of doing? Like, because those people have never been tested.
Right.
Just because they have numbers doesn't mean they have capability.
And you know what? Their biggest promotion is our own media. They make them up to be like,
superpower.
There's a superpower. Well, are they or are they not?
Well, I think some of that is like we give them that.
Yeah.
Like we contribute to that.
How long did our media give Ukraine and Russia?
For what? How do you mean?
When Russia invaded Ukraine, how long did they give Ukraine?
Oh, it was like it's going to be over in a moment.
Still going.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing with us in China, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they don't know. They have no fucking clue. They're a bunch of fucking colonists who don't know shit, right? You know, North Korea, Russia, China. I think we could probably we have the technology and the troops on the ground to be able to go in and take care of business. God forbid them come here.
Man.
You know, because I truly believe there's enough rednecks out there to help take care of the problem. But, you know, I'm talking Red Dawn shit here, but, but I think that would probably be a mistake. But it's kind of hard to measure something you have nothing to measure off of.
I appreciate that perspective because I think that's exactly what I probably, not necessarily what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear, we fucking got this. And here's all the things you don't know, Scott.
Yeah.
You know, because I talked to all these other people and we're good. No, what I wanted was an honest answer. Like you said, like I know you to give. And like you've even articulated that it's really hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. It really is because nobody knows their capabilities.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of confidence I can take from that, right? Like that we can. I mean, I can take the confidence that I got a very honest answer,
right?
But I can't take confidence walking away like we're in a really good position.
I mean, I have confidence in our military for sure. I mean, I spent 25 years in it based off what we can do. But, you know, there's things that we have no idea what they're capable of, you know. You know, they can shut down our power grid. They can do a lot of things to us that it don't matter if boots on the ground. They can do stuff to us that, you know, people fighting, you know, the old trench warfare is probably not going to happen if we go to war with China. You know, we're going to have ground combat, but a lot of it's going to be more cutting off your cell phone and cutting off, you know,
your water, your power, your food supply, your infrastructure.
They can do that.
Yeah, that's when things get weird real fast.
That's when people die.
That's when things get weird.
Yep. And
honestly, that's the thing I'm the most worried about, whether it's China or anybody else. Like I think that's when things get weird. You know, like on our own soil,
right?
Whether somebody else is here or not, like it gets weird.
Yep.
And again, I think that's why people come here to train, not because they're prepping for that, but because they're concerned and they recognize that as a potential reality.
Right.
And you need to be you need to be prepared for that.
You do.
Yeah. Do you have friends that are still in, man?
I do.
Or have you been out long enough to?
No, I still got friends that are still in.
And so when you talk to them about this stuff, wokeness, preparedness, what's going on logistically with our equipment and all that stuff, like what are they? What's their take on it?
Yeah, they're not happy with the way things are right now. A lot of them, you know, when you spend more time online doing mandatory classes on, you know, equal opportunity and all this other bullshit, and you're shooting your rifle, it's not fun, right? And dude, I saw this in 2014 when I was getting out.
Really?
Know? Oh yeah. You know, people, you have to take all these online classes and you know, you got to check the block and everybody's got to go through this training and all this stuff. And it's all EO shit and that kind of stuff. And, you know, that it takes time. That's time you're not training to do something else. And it's even worse now. I mean, it's like, and then now that the war's over, you know, budgets are cut. They don't have as much money to train as they have before. And those kind of things. So it's, luckily for the community I came from, they're still somewhat
hard chargers.
Well, they're still in the fight in some areas and stuff like that. You know, there's still stuff going on overseas that they're involved with, but you know, and that's mainly the people I talk to. And, you know, I get a lot of military through here, and it's kind of hard to explain. You know, it's like you spend 20 years fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? And a lot of units, even Delta Force or SEALs or Rangers or whoever, they were asked to do things that they weren't designed to do, right? So, you know, SEALs are maritime, Delta Force hostage rescue, whatever their mission is or whatever. And so you ask them to do something else for 20 years. Well, the war ends. Air Force, like Fred's group and some of these guys, STSs and PJs and all that stuff, they're doing all this stuff outside what they were stood up and designed to do, right? So now that the war's over, everybody's got to go back to their core mission.
Which is what?
They don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 20 years ago. It's 2 decades, right? So everybody's at that stage now to where they're trying to figure out, okay, where are we? Where do we go next? Where do we, we got this white space on the calendar now that we're not deploying. What do we fill it with?
It sounds like a lot like what we were talking about before, just with people in schools and corporate business and everything else that they're trying to figure out.
Yep.
What's the answer to this, man? Like, what do we do?
I wish I knew it. If I knew the answer, we'd both be millionaires. I have no idea, dude. I have no clue. I think that we got to pick our next fight and train for that. And then put everybody on the right path toward that and fund them to do it. Is it China? Is it North Korea? Is it Russia? Is it Syria? What is the next fight? I don't think anybody knows.
Do you feel like we're in like another Cold War situation right now?
I think so. Yeah. It's kind of weird because, and if you think about China, you think about Russia, and you think about North Korea, and you think about Syria, and they're all different fights. It's different terrain, it's different enemy, it's different capabilities. It's like, shit, where do we go? How do we train?
It's all very different, right?
It's all very different.
Afghanistan and Ukraine, Bakhmut is not the same. Mm-mm. Not even close.
And, even the sad part about it is if you look at Afghanistan now and the way we pulled out of there and the amount of money and effort and lives that we put into that country, it's worse off now than it was before we went in initially.
I think we are too. From a military perspective,
I think so too.
From a demoralization perspective,
right?
Because you just said it. I mean, the lives, the energy, the money. Like, why to do it like that? And so, when you look at like people aren't coming in, it's not because there aren't people that have the ability to come in. It's like, why am I going to go do that? Like they've been left with a sour taste in their mouth. Even members of longtime like lineage,
right?
Within the military families. Like I talk to guys all the time, that have worked at a really high level at some of the places that you just mentioned.
Right.
They go, I don't want my kid going into this.
Right.
Not ever.
Absolutely.
Not now. Not ever. Based on what's currently happening, what I've experienced, and what's happened in the last couple of years. That is a scary place to be. And again, I think that just adds to the let's go back to mission sets. Like again, these guys don't know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They have no idea. So what are they training for? How are we keeping them busy?
Right.
Well, if we don't know what we're training for and we can't keep them busy, then I'm not going to give them any funding. Right. So now they're getting less. And you talked about the experience piece. And I think there's a whole other side of this. You mentioned a few of the different segments, right? Delta, some of the PJs, right? The Navy SEALs. There's a far side difference, and this is what I've learned, and this is no disrespect. So to anybody that wears a tab, a certain beret, a trident, any of these other things, I'm a fucking nobody. What I will tell you is this is what I've heard, and what I think I realized, that there's a hierarchy there. There's like a pecking order, and those guys that were constantly in the fight for whatever the reason is, and wherever the fight was, they're different than the guys that are waiting for a fight because they're staying relevant.
Right.
They're always out there pushing, training. Not that these other guys aren't training all the time and that the information that they're getting for their training isn't valid because but they're not being pushed. They're not being tested. They're not having to compete, right? They're training, they're learning, but they're not competing. And
they compete because they're not fighting.
That's exactly
and right. The retention rate is horrible. So they just get the fuck out.
So all you have is these people on the lower end of that cycle that are training and learning, right? But they haven't had any real world experience, so they can't pass that down.
Right.
So that we've watched that happen in law enforcement too, over the
Right.
last few years with the way these guys have been treated and all that stuff. I think it's a scary place for us to be, but again, it is very similar to a lot of the other things that are happening. So I in terms of like next question and like kind of where we go with this would be, as you see people coming through here and the things that they're doing, knowing that they're having a little bit of a challenge. Like one of the things you mentioned was the breacher program. Like this is something that those guys are going to have to continue to go through. That's something that they're going to have to continue to train. But I wonder if as you see people come through here, units come through here, groups come through here, that you can talk about and not talk about. What is the thing that's lacking the most outside of the mission set, right? Like they don't have something specifically they're training for or some specific mission. Like what is the thing that they're not getting that they could be doing a better job with? Is there anything?
I think if when they come here, they know what they want to do. So I don't see a lot of gaps in their training. A lot of units are able to hire the instructors they want to bring in, or they instruct themselves. I don't see a huge gap in that. The money's there. Because, for us, if they say, hey, this is our budget, okay, that's your budget.
It's a budget.
Okay, that's what it's going to cost you. I don't see a lot that they're missing here when they come through here. The Air Force has a huge budget, and we probably see more Air Force here than we do anybody else because of their budget, and they don't have, if you go to an Air Force base, they don't have the ranges we have here. If you're an Air Force unit attached to an Army base, you can't get on the ranges because they're on.
They're doing their thing.
So they have the budget to come here and train, and they can pretty much do what they need to do and what they want to do, and they have the money to do it. So
but that's good to know.
Yeah. We get most of our business is Army and obviously Air Force. So I don't see a huge gap. But when they're training to
fulfill like
basics.
A requirement. Yeah,
it's basics.
It's a basic requirement.
Basics. It's not like they come in here and say, "Hey, we need Ivans for Russian targets."
Like, we learned this in the last 6 months about here's what we're missing, and we're coming in here to train.
Marksmanship, CQB. Vehicle recovery drills, long range. I mean, it's all stuff that they just can't. They can't train on another post. So they come here to do it.
I get it.
You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like. So I don't know what they're missing. I don't, because when they come here, it's normally
very structured.
Very structured.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, if you had to make a guess at what. Again, going back to our previous conversation, like we talk about China, we talk about Ukraine. Yeah. Ukraine is a thing for me. Like obviously China is a major thing. But when I look at Ukraine, I'm like, how much longer can this go on before some intervention has to happen at a little bit different level? Look, we could talk about this all night long in terms of what we're really trying to do or not do over there. Yeah. But if you look out there and you go, look, if they need to be training anything right now, what would it be? Like outside of the general standard stuff, is there anything as you're looking at global affairs and what's happening? Like, and again, you got Air Force and Army, predominantly that's coming here. Is there anything that they should be training? They should be taking advantage of here more that they're not, and when I say here, I mean the arena and the things that they're doing.
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I don't. I don't know when they're not here. I don't know what they're training on. So it's kind of hard. That's kind of hard for me to answer because I don't know.
Yep.
I know they train all the time, but I know what they train on while they're here.
Mm-hmm.
But when they leave here, I have no idea where they're going next.
Yeah, I understand. I think this is the bigger thing. It's like as people like you get out and move on, while you still have so much to potentially contribute.
I could have told you, a few years ago before the war ended, exactly what they're training on next. Because when everybody came back from deployment, everything was lined out for them. Okay, this is what you're going to do.
Gotcha.
Before you deploy again.
Yep.
You know, you're going to do this, 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 and this. And then when you got done with this, you deploy again. Because that's what I was talking about before.
It's very, very
now
structured.
They come back, you know, there's nothing but white space on the calendar. All right, how do we feel it? What's next? What do we need to train on? Those are the things that people are trying to figure out. So, you know, if you train on the basics and everything, right, whatever it is your mission is,
right,
then you can't go wrong, right? And then it comes down to, you know, the enemy and their tactics and that kind of stuff. But if you don't know who the enemy is, you can't train on all of them because we got so many now. It's just like, fuck, you know?
I think this is an important point that you're making here for a lot of people that might be listening that are going like, yeah, so what are we actually doing? Not having an answer to that is a problem.
It is.
It's a bigger problem.
Now, I don't know, you know, maybe, you know, at higher levels, you would hope that they'll be like, okay, our biggest adversary right now is whether it's China or North Korea.
You got to have a priority, right?
Yeah. Here's your priority, China. So start training toward, but what are you training against? You don't know their tactics because they've never been tested.
Yeah, this is my
you know,
question.
You're just like, shit, okay.
Yeah.
China. Oh. What do you want me to do? I don't know. I don't know what their tactics are because they've never been tested. But I think we're smart enough to figure it out. We'll figure it out.
I get confidence in that, but I also understand it's very tough questions to answer.
Right.
That's why I'm asking you, man. Because if there's a dude to ask, it's going to be you.
I wish I had all the answers. Yeah. I really do, but I don't.
I mean, I feel like you've had almost nearly all the answers. That's I figured this would be a good time to ask you the tough ones.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being honest and like.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to fight China.
What's next?
I know
we'll know when we get there.
We know their equipment, but we don't have no idea about their tactics or
we'll know when we get there.
Anything, you know, and it's just like, shit, how do they fight? What are they, you know? Those are kind of important things to know, you know?
I got to imagine, you know, for people that are in your position now, currently, that's a very frustrating place to be because you want to provide the right things for your people and prepare them and, you know, the way that they were prepared, but if you don't know, you don't know. Yeah, that's why I'm asking you, man. Because I think, you know, there's a lot of people out there that have those questions and what they're seeing is what's happening in the news. And
it's all media.
You got a dude with a lot of ribbons on his chest and some stars or some birds or whatever. And
normally
press
the guy
conferences.
You don't want to listen to. Yeah. And I got no disrespect for any of them, but I'm just like, why is that guy on TV?
I think that's an excellent place.
I think that there's a reason they don't call me because they want to get. I'll be like Tucker. I'll be like Tucker Carlson. You're fired. You told the truth. You're out of here.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really good place to kind of wrap it up, man. Is that the honesty, the upfrontness. Like again, I took so much away from this week, you know, and being here and getting what I got from you through the dinners, through the beers. You know, and then through this podcast, and again, just through some little interactions I saw you having with some other people and some conversations. When I've been sort of what I shared with other people is that I'm sort of like I like to observe the characters,
right?
You know, kind of in the thing,
right?
And whatever this thing is happening, the story or whatever, and for a guy that's had as much experience as you've had in the ways that you've had it and how I watch you operate around here. And again, I'm just going to go back to the high regard that people keep for you and hold for you, you know, in the space and the guys that I hold in high regard that invited me here. I think that says a lot, but it's also, there's a lot of things that you don't say that I think say the most. And I really fucking respect that, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And because I can see you taking it in. And watching other people have conversations. And just like you just said a few minutes ago, I don't know, but they'll figure it out. Like I can see you looking at people sometimes and going, I'm not sure he really gets that, but they're going to figure it out. And I don't need to say anything right now about that. Yeah.
You know, I do that a lot. And it's like I listen and I'm like, figure it out. Because if you figure it out, you're going to be better when you leave here. And that's my biggest thing is I want people to come here and be better. I'm not going to answer the questions on the test for you. I may not have them all. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I sit and listen to people talk like we've done on the front porch 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And if I got involved in every conversation, I would never sleep because I could just, but I don't do that. I'd rather sit there and listen and watch somebody figure it out than give them the answer to the test, because maybe my answer is not the best one, but I won't give them, but I enjoy that part about this. I don't say a lot unless I'm asked. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you, like I told you before.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it is just sitting listening and like, let's watch and see what happens.
Yeah, and trusting the process, right?
Yep.
And trusting the having faith in humanity,
Yep.
which I think people really lack right now. Sometimes I'm really challenged by my my faith in humanity. But you mentioned like your daughter and going off to New York or Manhattan, like she'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And you got to let people do that.
It's like my youngest daughter. She's like, I don't want to go to college. I'm like, okay, you don't have to go to college. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
She's figuring it out. She's got a job and she's doing great. And I'm proud of both of them. It's just like, cool. When I went to SCAD in Atlanta, which is a private school and it costs a lot of money, and she did very well when she did very well in the school. She's very talented. She graduated, got a great job that she can work in, she fulfilled her dream. And the other one's like, I ain't going to school. I'm done with school.
It's interesting like that, how they are.
Yeah,
right?
it's just like two total opposites. And I'm like, well, that's cool. I ain't got to pay for another, figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah, but she's figured it out, and sometimes you just got to leave it on people to figure it out for themselves.
I think that's the T-shirt you should come up with, man. I think it's
figure it out.
Figure it out. I think that's the next T-shirt for you.
It's on you. Figure it out.
Perfect, man. I want to thank you for coming and just spending time with me in this format. I mean, it's late. There's been a lot happening this week. You're an uber busy dude, running around taking care of people. That's what I see you doing, is just taking care of people and making sure that they get the things that they need in order to be successful. You're helping me tonight in doing that. And I hope somehow this helps you being successful in the way that you're trying to be successful here.
Yeah.
And the things that you're trying to do. But I think more than anything, the thing I want to thank you for is just being you, dude. Coming out and being a man, being the man that you are, listening, not getting involved in conversations that probably aren't important ones. I mean, that to me, that's like sometimes I feel like I need to jump in, or like I want to be part of something, knowing that there could be some consequence to this. I mean, the example that you set this week, and I think you set for people coming in, is a powerful one. And that is like, sometimes you just got to let people figure it out.
Just sit back and let them.
Yeah, man.
You sit there and listen, you're like, I want to see how this turns out. I really want to see how this turns out, because this guy's no idea what the fuck he's talking about. But I'm going to watch and see it. I'm going to watch it unfold, and I'm not going to say a word when it's done. I'm just going to let him leave here knowing that he learned something by fucking up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's just what it takes.
Yeah, man. That's parenting, which is where this thing started at the beginning. That's about being leadership. It's about being a leader.
You come here as a grown man, you leave here as a grown man. So you make your own fucking decisions, right? So, if you fuck it up, you fuck it up. It's your money.
Figure it out.
On the business end, it's your money. So if you fuck it up, you fuck it up.
I love that. More people need to hear that in life, man.
Yeah.
So you keep doing that. Right? I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much
sir. I enjoyed it.
For the time, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.